Outside of cash, there are three major constraints in your business right now, and how you handle them will determine your future. Welcome to the Duke of Work podcast. Today, I'm talking about the three constraints in your service business right now and how to solve them. So you might find yourself in any of these situations in your business. You might have pipeline that's running low, you don't have enough leads or enough deals coming through. That is a very common situation. On the flip side of that, you might have a good pipeline, but your operations are a mess. Your team is running amok. There's a lot of deadlines that are being missed. Your clients feel like they're being left hanging, and you feel like you have to superhero your way through to make things happen, to put out fires. On the other side of that, you might be in endless meetings with your team, where the team is listening, saying yes on the meetings, but when they execute, they're not executing, or they're not executing to the level that you expect of them. And you're just frustrated because you're like, why don't they get it? Why don't they get it like I do? Now, besides cash flow and cash management, the three major constraints in your business right now, because every business faces these constraints. You may not face all three at the same time. That actually might be a bad situation, but you are typically facing one or two at any given point of your business. The three constraints are lead generation and deal creation. The second is your operations to fulfill the work. And the third constraint is your leadership constraint. So if we were to condense these or just simplify this, the first constraint is in your marketing and sales. The second constraint is in your operations. And the third constraint is in your people. And ideally, you're only facing one at a time, but odds are you might be facing one or two at a time, which is completely fine. But again, like I mentioned, if you're facing three at the same time, you're in a difficult situation. You're going to want to listen to this podcast in its entirety as we dive into everything here together. Lead generation and deal creation. This is your marketing and sales. You'll see that this is probably one of the most popular topics in business because most businesses die because of lack of revenue and lack of sales. And sometimes that's because they build something that the market doesn't want. Odds are you have something that the market wants, but you want to dial this in. You want to create more consistency. At least that's what my clients tell me. They want more predictability, more consistency. So I'm going to give you what I suggest being the 80-20. That's not simple, but the more direct things that if you influence these things correctly, you will have a higher likelihood, a higher probability of fixing your lead generation deal creation situation. And there's a lot to dive into here, so we're not going to be able to cover every single aspect, but I want to just give you the entire encompassing thing so that you can go ahead and get to work and focus on these key things because there's endless amounts of information in the market teaching you how to solve every single one of these, and it can get overwhelming. So I want to simplify that to give you exactly what you need to take action now. So the first thing that you need to solve is your offering. What are you actually giving people, and do they understand the offering? Is the offering confusing? I'll give you an example. Someone subscribed to my newsletter, and the guy has an amazing, like a beautiful website. Let me tell you, the website's clean. The work is impeccable. You can tell that they do really good work. However, I was not sure who they do it for or what's the actual offering. So that was very confusing just from the onset of the website. And that's a problem. If people don't know what you're doing for them, how are they going to buy from you? So the second piece you want to dive into is your ideal client segment, not just your ideal clients in your ICP, but the segment. Who in the people that you serve, who in your ideal clients value your work the most, where the value is equal and equated to dollar amount, where you solve a problem for them, it's a higher value problem solved for them versus another client segment. So that's the second piece. The third is tying your business model to your offering and to your ideal client segment. You have to make money appropriately for cash flow and for revenue. But second to that, you need to make sure that your business model supports the offers that you make, because then the offering is not just here's the goods or services that I have, can you buy them? It's how you deliver them. It's the payment plans, the terms, and the way that it's delivered. And that needs to match with your personal revenue and cash flow management. Now, the rest, these are typically easier. These are typically more abundant in the marketplace of information, but we need to dive into the rest as well. Diving into your positioning. How are you perceived in the market? Your channels. How do you reach out to your ideal clients to generate new business, to contact them so that they can contact you in return? What are the lead magnets that you're generating? Webinars, VSLs. What are you generating so that you can give to the marketplace for them to create reciprocity, but also learn more about you and for them to solve an immediate problem? A lead magnet is something that's since the dawn of the internet, but I want to share with you a simple framework that can help you when you create your lead magnets. What type of lead or prospect you're going to generate from the lead magnet. So for the lead magnets, you want to have something that is high impact. So something that they can watch and they can take action immediately. And then from there, the action, we need to figure out what's the threshold or what is the friction from actually executing it. Because you can teach them exactly how to build a car. Now, you can learn that in theory pretty easily, but to execute it, there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of things to do in order to execute that. Same thing with your lead magnet. You need to figure out what you're giving away for free, what you're giving your audience, what you're giving your ideal client. Can they implement that easily? Is the effort easy or is the effort high? Now, this is important because if the effort is high, yet the information to consume is easy, you can deliver it in a way where they can consume it. But the effort is high. Your natural follow-up offering is, hey, do you want me to do it for you? And in services, that is the best offer in the world. Let me just do it for you. Let me take it off of your hands. And obviously, this has to be a cost benefit to them. This has to be faster for them. This has to be something that benefits their business. And again, going back to what we talked about earlier, when you solve this problem for them, the value is so high where they'll pay you appropriately, but also they get a significant return on working with you. So you got to think about that when you deliver the lead. You can't just give away something for free because you think it's a good idea. You need to identify it's going to be something easily consumed and to take action on, because if they can take action on it without you, then the follow-up offer is not going to be, can I do it for you? Because they could just do it themselves. So it really depends where your buyer is in their buyer's journey and where you want to implement the lead magnet. Now, enough of that. We'll dive into inbound ads and warm messaging. Typically, people consider ads as an outbound approach because you're reaching people cold. With ads, I've been working in agencies and supporting them where we were the kings of cold ads, meaning getting someone from a cold ad to convert and buy a product immediately from that cold ad. Now, those were I wouldn't say those are the easy days of lead generation. I'm pretty sure someone else has figured that out today's market, but that was really fun because it's pretty interesting to see someone who's never heard your name, never seen you, go through the ad and then make a purchase immediately within a very short time frame. That's impeccable. When you find that, you literally have the right to figure out how can you scale that quickly, and it becomes almost like a game of a slot machine. But anyway, that's a different conversation for a different time. But for the inbound ads, I want to focus something that's inbound because this is related to your content. This is related to your lead magnets. So when you create content and you deliver lead magnets to the marketplace, you want to identify what are the ones that are doing well. What can I put an ad in the marketplace to attract the right kind of buyer? And then from there, those ads create activity. Not everyone is going to buy from ads, and that's certainly the case in today's market. So why focus on ads when you create awareness? And with that awareness, you have different signals. Those signals are people hitting your website, going into your CRM, maybe messaging you, maybe interacting with you. And those you can follow up on, which hits on the warm messaging, the warm outbound, the warm reaching out to people around, hey, I saw that you downloaded this thing or you got this video. How can I be of service? How can I be more of value? And again, moving them down the buyer's journey. And then finally, this has been around since business has been around. It's just developing cold outreach and reaching out to new people who don't know you, building a relationship, not just sending crazy AISD messages that fall flat through cheap copywriting frameworks. So just doing proper outreach. And I always urge myself and clients to never automate the first message because you need to automate what works. And if you're doing net new messaging to new people who don't know you and you give them crap, you're going to get crap in return. It's as simple as that. And then finally, referrals. What can you do in your referral programs with current clients, with past clients, and just follow up with people and just seeing how can I generate new business through my warm network? And that's typically the best place to start if leads are down and deal creation is low. And even if you've done this before and you said, because I've had prospects on the call said, I've done all that. I've done it and I'm still not there. It might be the way that you're executing the activity. It might be your mindset to execute the activity. Because when I hear that, I typically think you're telling me that exercise doesn't work. Exercise works. You just have to do the work the right way, the appropriate way, consistently over time, and you will get results. Now, that is lead generation and deal creation. Obviously, we can't solve every single situation that you're facing there. So if you have more nuanced questions around that, feel free to message me on LinkedIn. So next, let's dive into operations. So in operations, I have a mental model that there's 2 R's to lifetime value with your clients. And the 2 R's are results and relationship. The more results that you have, but the less relationship, you might have a lower lifetime value because if you're replaceable, then, you're replaceable. If you're just there doing your job, that's great. But humans like to do business with humans, typically, at least today. And with that, we have to have a relationship. And if you just have a relationship and no results, you're not going to have a client around for more than like a month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months. So that is the situation there. So the more results that you get and the higher the relationship, the more you can increase your lifetime value. So this is in relation to operations, because operations translates to your systems, your processes, and technology, which typically only translates to one thing that matters: customer experience, which is a metaphor for your brand. It's essentially your customer experience equals your brand. It's not a logo. It's not the color schema. It's not how beautiful your website is. It's your brand. And the way that you can craft an amazing customer experience through the operations is to look at these following areas of where to optimize and seeing where are things breaking. Because if odds are, if you're superheroing your way through the entire week with back-to-back meetings with your team, trying to figure everything out yourself, trying to execute and put out fires, then you want to optimize the different phases of the customer experience so that your team can handle it or systems can handle it on your behalf. The first one, the most important one, is onboarding. So when you onboard your clients, what is the experience there? What is the time frame? What information that you need? How do you transfer that information? How do you make their life easier so you can plug and play versus asking the same questions? That's actually a question that I'm personally trying to solve. When clients onboard with me, they usually have to fill out a proprietary, I think it's 19 or 21 questions. If it changes, we might take away questions and add questions depending on where they're at. But it's about 19 questions, and it feels like something like I have to answer all these questions again. Obviously, when they go through it, they do tell me that was very enlightening. That was a great experience because you asked questions that I actually haven't thought about, or I was surprised that you asked this type of question. Now, that's okay, but I'm always trying to figure out, how can I plug and play? Is there a way for me to plug and play to their Google Drive so that I can just extract the right information with their permission, of course, and then get all that information leveraging AI so that I can onboard them fluidly. And all they have to do is click a few buttons for me to get access to that. That's one way. I know it's not as easy because some of the work that we do is strategic, but if you're in bookkeeping, if you're in something where it's like literally plug and play, I know with QuickBooks, we just get access and boom, you can onboard almost instantaneously. Again, I'm not saying it's a perfect instantaneously, but it's just an example. But think about, what can you do to reduce the friction of onboarding? I have a client right now where they're onboarding their type of clients that they work with. So the clients of my client, they're super busy. So they're not going to complete the onboarding in 7 days. It might even take 30 days to complete the onboarding. That's not a good look. It's not a good thing. So what can we do to increase the client experience so that the clients who onboard can do it quickly, can do it fluidly, so that we can get to work and deliver value? Because the number one KPI for operations is time to value. At least in your onboarding, it's time to value. And if you're smart, then you know maybe my time to value is 60 days. Maybe it's 90 days. Maybe for some of you, it's 180 days. You need to know, how can I create the quick wins? And this comes into your relationship management. When you work with the client and you review their sales call, you have AI plug in all the information in CRM from the sales call, which some tools do that, which is pretty amazing. When you do that, you review that information, you identify, okay, cool, client ABC needs this particular goal. I actually have an introduction, or I have a tool, or I have a resource that can help them achieve that right now while we work on building whatever it is we're building or developing for them. So again, that's another way to increase the time to value and increase the client experience and increase the perception of working with you being a good idea. Because even when you buy a house, or when I bought my house, or when you make a big purchase, you work with someone, you're always thinking, did I make the right decision? Is this the right decision? So you, when you onboard it, prove to your client that they made the right decision. They were smart for working with you. Not only that, but you actually care. And second, you're going to fulfill your promises. I cannot believe how normal it is for people to not fulfill on their promises. For you just to be consistent and for you to follow through on what you've promised in your contract agreement. Incredible how much that small percentage of effort will take you to building the right relationship and getting the right results with your clients. Now that is all around onboarding, and the rest is when your client management, week in, week out, when it comes to the month check-ins, if you do quarterly check-ins, whatever the process looks like to maintain that client relationship over time. And then from there, you want to identify, can you upsell the client to a different service, cross-sell to another service? Can you add or take away things that they don't need so that they know that you're doing things in their best interest? I have one client who actually focuses to deliver services at such an amazing cost that at some months when they have a budget, they actually refund the client saying, you know what, we didn't use the rest of the budget. We can either refund it to you or we can use that budget for a future build or a future scope. What an amazing experience. And they do that intentionally knowing We're here for our clients' best interest, not our best interest. And in today's age, you do need to prove that, not just with your words, but with your actions. And you operationalize that through your systems and your processes. It's not that complicated. The most important hack that I would recommend for teams, and this is off script here. I like to tell my clients that the best thing that you can do is to actually hire an operations manager or hire someone in the ops side to support you as you scale. I know that there's multiple ideas around what the best hires are. Depending on where you're at, having a very solid operations manager is going to solve a significant amount of your problems. If you already have them and are not doing well, and that's another situation we need to dive into. That's in step number 3 below that we're going to dive into in just a second. But that is a key thing. Having an operations person, regardless of their job title, as long as they have the experience that they can support you, having that person only focus on this will make significant leaps and bounds, even more so than just like focusing on sales. Because again, depending on where your constraints are, if your constraints are in leads and sales, focus on that first. If you have good leads and sales and your constraints in operations, focus on operations. If you have both at the same time, obviously focusing on sales first, but at the same time, also focusing, how can I improve the client experience? Because once you get people in, they're going to go out through a leaky bucket. You don't want that. All right, so diving into number 3, we're going to dive into leadership here. Now, with leadership, this is a huge topic, and I have mentors and coaches and friends who focus on this, particularly as their entire business. But the whole idea with leadership is want to focus on 2 core aspects of your business. Number 1 is your culture, and number 2 is your talent management. So with your culture, answering the questions like, why do you exist? What is your focus? And why should we get on the bus with you? That's how you create culture. That statement right there can save you tens of thousands of dollars from hiring some leadership consultant or culture consultant to help you develop your mission, vision, and values, because essentially people want to know, why do you exist as a company and why should we care? So why do you exist? Where is your focus? What are you focusing and trying to do in the world? Where is your focus of what the energy, the activity of your team and that you're taking? What are we trying to achieve that can relate to your goals, to your mission? And why should we get on the bus to support you? Why should we care to join you? And that has to be compelling. And that has to be more than just a monetary piece, right? That's culture. You solve those problems. You can literally pause this recording right now, take out a piece of paper like one of these, and literally write it down. It doesn't take very long, and you can always improve it tomorrow. Write it down today, review it tomorrow, see what you can improve on. Do that for 20 days, do that for 30 days, and you'll see you have an impeccable culture framework of where you're going, why does it matter, and why should others join you. Now, the second piece of leadership is talent management. And typically when I work with founders, this is the core issue. How can I either A, manage my team appropriately so that they can level up, and B, have my team execute it to the point where they're doing it better than me. So part of that is you hire A players. That's a different situation for a different conversation because that's around hiring and attracting those. But I'll give you a true story. I have one of my clients that came in and they told me their goals. They told me what they wanted to achieve. And to be completely honest with you, I was dumbfounded. I was like, wow, this is an incredible goal. I am entrusted with a lot of responsibility to support them and to be the kind of person that is required for them to level up. So this is the lesson here. I had to level up as a human being, as a person, so that I could therefore pour into the person I was serving. So see how that works? That's the same thing with coaching. That's the same thing with the way that you approach your leadership, because you as a leader have to be a coach to your team. If you're not willing to do that, get out of business. A lot of people can't lead because of that. You have to become a better person in all aspects of your life for you to lead appropriate to the next person. And now there might be a lot of case studies proving me wrong around that. I don't care. What I care about is when you work with an actual person and they thank you for what you did 5 years, 8 years, 10 years later after working with them. That to me is significant impact. And that is really the crux of what I'm trying to get at here. What I'm trying to get at here is that if you want to increase your talent, you have to level up as a leader yourself. Now, I have a training that I do with teams, and I think you can find this in most of my books and in some free articles. I'll find a way to link it out below on the podcast, but I have the 5 pillars of heroic leadership. And I dive into this specifically around how to level up as a heroic leader. And the reason I talk about it as a heroic leader is because you want to face reality as it is, not shy away from it, and improve the situation of the reality. not just run with the flow or be run over. The reason why I also call it heroic is because this is from my personal experience in fast growth, high paced organizations scaling up. So this isn't just for status quo, for keeping things the same. This is for rapid change, moving forward, and changing, influencing what currently exists to build what could be, not managing what currently is. We don't care to manage, don't want to manage. You want to change the current situation to create what's potentially there, but it's not there right now. So you have to create it, which takes courage, which is why I call it heroic leadership. So the 5 pillars are: you have to influence the thinking of your team through your approach, through your tonality, through your conversation, through your text, through your Slacks, through your messaging. So that's a whole thing of itself. The second is you're steady. You have to be steady through difficult times and through turbulence, because if you panic through that, your team's going to panic. The third is taking informed execution, because we need to take actual empirical data and then from there translate it so that we can go ahead and execute with our team. And again, going back to being steady, not panic when something goes awry. Let's say this is a common situation, especially in the ads world, when your ads are doing superiorly well, you're getting a good cost per lead or a good cost per acquisition. And then for one day, it goes bad. And then the second goes bad. And the third day it goes bad. It's like, okay, this could be a trend. The fourth day goes bad. And from there you panic. And then maybe you reset everything real quickly. But if you just follow through and you started measuring appropriately, you might see, hey, this is actually common over, I don't know, a holiday season. Then they're going to bounce back up. And instead of worrying and panicking, recreating work for everyone, you just hold the fort and then from there adjust accordingly. Or you actually change things depending on what the data tells you. Supports being steady and supports setting the stage so that how you approach, the way that you think, the way that you talk, the way that you communicate with others, supports their action, determines how they do their actions. Then the fourth is facilitate movement. When you facilitate movement, you want to go ahead and enable others to work on their behalf without you. Micromanaging means that I need to decide everything. I need to show you the way because I'm so smart. That's not the common term of micromanagement, but that's essentially what it is. And in the past, I was totally a micromanager without wanting to be a micromanager because I thought that I had all the answers. Clearly, I don't. So the way that you can facilitate movement is empower your team to take action through the information, empower them through coaching, and empower them through the knowledge that is either IP from the organization, access to outside knowledge, access to other coaching or books, access to yourself, whatever ways you need so that they can go ahead and take action on their behalf and improve. And this is how you can create someone who is better than you, essentially what you want. You want someone who's better than you in the role that you hired them for them to execute and improve the status quo. Then the final is to fuel others. So when you have others here with a team, the whole goal here is to enable not just their training, not just their future career compensation, not just their future development, but also through the words that you use, which is, again, going back to setting the stage. You want to make sure that they know that you care. So this is the EQ to the IQ. You want to make sure that you enable their growth, that you affirm the positive traits that they have so they can flourish and become better in their role. And at the same time, for you to see that in real time, you have to elevate the way that you see yourself and how you see your team. Now, there's a lot more that I can dive into. I do a whole 90-minute training with teams on this. If you're interested in that, let me know. But with that specifically, heroic leadership is necessary. And the key lesson here in leadership is that you need to level up as a leader in order for others around you to level up. Now, those are the 3 constraints in your service business right now and actionable steps on how to solve them. We dove into your lead generation and deal creation, your marketing and sales, on identifying your offer, your ideal client segment, making sure that we have your positioning right, knowing the difference in lead magnets, making sure that how ads are actually classified nowadays, and making sure that you have follow-up activities depending on your current situation, the signals that your market is delivering to you. We also dove into your operations and identifying your customer experience and how that translates into your brand, focusing on all stages of the experience from onboarding to client management and eventually offboarding. If you want to find ways for them to either save the client or follow up with the client 6 months after they offboard, that's always a valid approach. And then finally, we dove into leadership and identifying 2 key things about your culture, how you craft that culture in a simple way where you can do without hiring tens of thousands of culture consultants. You can literally do it with a piece of paper, or you can do it with AI, just type it in and then improve upon it. So you have something that you feel is the right approach. And the second is your talent management. And besides the hiring and recruiting, knowing that for you to manage the talent appropriately is for you to level up as a leader. And we dove into the 5 pillars of heroic leadership around that. Now, these are the 3 constraints If you have any additional questions or any nuanced questions around the constraint that you're facing, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And until next time, this is Raul Hernandez. Do good work. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to get more of these podcasts, please go ahead and subscribe to wherever you're watching or listening to the pod. If you have any suggestions or questions that you want me to answer on the pod, or you have a guest that you want me to interview, please go ahead and email me all of your suggestions and questions at podcast@dogoodwork.io. That's podcast@dogoodwork.io. If you'd like to give me public feedback, you can go on Apple Podcasts, and from there you can leave up to a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate that. If you like more free resources where you can get my best strategies to help you increase your company's performance and scale profitably, you can get handpicked articles to propel your growth, and you can get trainings and discussions that I give freely online, as well as low-cost resources such as my books and guides. You can get all of that by going to dogoodwork.io/free-growth-resources. 90% of all of these resources are not behind any email opt-ins. You can get instant access by going to dogoodwork.io/free-growth-resources. Now, if you'd like to accelerate your progress and shorten the gap between information and action and start seeing results in your business, let's work together to increase your company's performance and scale profitably and serve more clients without the overwhelm. You can request a free clarity call to see how we can best support you to reach your goals by going to dogoodwork.io/apply. Again, that's dogoodwork.io/apply. As always, it's an honor to be a small part in your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.